started having an interest in this matter when there were reports that some oil marketing companies, and by oil marketing companies, I mean those who sell to us at the fuel pumps, they lift the petroleum products from the depots, and every liter that you lift, there are tax components on the tax and revenue components. Some go to the GRA, others go to the MPA. So you are supposed to sell, take your margins, pay the owner of the petroleum product, and then give the tax component to the government. But many of these shady OMCs often absconded after selling and then making their profit. So systems started getting in place. And one of the systems was something they call the Enterprise Relational Database Management System, ERDMS, which is a platform, an online platform, which ensures that if anybody wants to load a petroleum product anywhere in this country, whether you are loading gasoline or diesel from Tema, Bupe, Kumasi, or Takrade, you go onto this system and then place the order. This order will be vetted by the MPA and the GRA. So if you loaded your previous one and then you were due to bring the money to the state and you have not paid, you'll be blocked out from loading again. This system is linked to the customs system, which they call ICOMS. And also it records the volumes that are lifted at the various depots. And if you go to every depot in this country, you would have customs officials there. So they have the keys to the depots. So if the owner of the petroleum product is there and the buyers are there and then you don't have the GRA officials, customs officials, that they will not lift. Then there was an issue of diversion, which was often cheated, or people cheated the system using the UPPF system. That ensures that a liter of petroleum product in Accra sells the same as the price in Bolga, because there is a system to flatten out transportation cost. So some would load and claim that they are going to discharge in Bolga and end up discharging in Sawam, but taking the amount that should have accrued if they had taken the product to Bolga. So the MPA introduced a tracking system. So if you go to the MPA today and anybody loads petroleum products in any tanker, an electronic seal is placed on that vehicle, so that if you don't get your destination and you tamper with the seal, it sends an automatic alarm to the MPA. Your location is detected and you can be arrested. So if you go to the MPA today, you will see live tracking of vehicles that are in Burkina Faso, Mali, Eastern region, everywhere in this country. So that is checking the diversion. And they brought fuel marking system, also another company, to check the dilution of petroleum products. So all these systems were put in place to ensure that the state's interest is protected and then the revenue that is due us is collected. In our investigation, we asked the GRA officials, head of petroleum, Mr. Samson Enim, who said that with the ERDMS, it ensures that the GRA is able to track its volumes. And once you're able to track your volumes, you're able to collect the appropriate taxes. Besides all of these, we found out that another company by name SML, now we know that it used to be SMEL, smell, and perhaps they didn't like the smell of it, so they changed it to SML, which has still not taken the smell away anyway. But this company claimed to be doing under the checking under declaration, diversion, dilution, and it stated these functions on its website. that this is what it did, and it stemmed the tide in the downstream petroleum sector. When we finished our investigation, we went to SML, and we actually first interviewed the GRA officials who said that no, SML was not performing these functions. So the day my team went to interview SML, there were at least 6 or so officials from the customs division of the GRA. We went together, including the head of the department. And they even started a conversation that Manasseh and his people say, you are doing ABC. And SML said, no, we never stated that. So I went to their website and read it to them. And they admitted, well, it may have been a mistake, somebody put it there. So by the close of the day, the company took this out of their website. So that tells you that the downstream petroleum sector that the company claimed to be providing those services, it wasn't doing any of them. Then there were 2 other contracts at the ports that SML had: external price verification and transaction audits. And I don't want to speak so much about whether or not those functions were also giving us value for money. This is what the president's white paper, and I'm talking about President Akufo-Addo's white paper from the KPMG report, said of this contract, that the transaction audits and external price verification services may also be terminated. According to KPMG's findings, GRA obtained partial value or benefit from those services. This was also due to a lack of monitoring on the part of GRA to ensure that SML performed the services as stipulated in the contracts. KPMG, and this is the important part, KPMG's investigations found that GRA has introduced external price verification tools as part of ICOMS, among its other functions. This renders reliance on SML for external price verification redundant. These are not my words, these are the words of the Presidency of the Republic of Ghana at the time of President Akufo-Addo, based on the KPMG findings. And these 2 contracts were terminated. And it is interesting to say that these services that we are told were redundant, the country has paid SML 506 million Ghana cedis for these services. 506 million Ghana cedis for services that the president said were redundant because customs was already doing it. And when in our investigation we said that the services were not needed, people questioned it. Is one of them. And 2, the downstream petroleum measurement audit, we know that the measurement SML was doing, GRA was not using them for revenue purposes. GRA was using the existing meters that were there before SML was introduced. Those are the meter readings GRA used for its taxes. Then in 2023, in June, despite adequate evidence that this company was doing practically nothing to add value to the state, the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, caused a letter to be written. And that letter, I just want to read. It was written on the dated 22nd June 2023. The title is Expansion of the Scope of Work by Mrs. Strategic Mobilization Limited. And this letter is signed by Ernest Akore, Chief of the Cabinet, who we are now told is at large with Ken Ofori-Atta. The letter says, the Honorable Minister has determined that there is a need to monitor the production and shipment of gold and oil out of the country. To this end, he would like to expand the scope of the revenue assurance work being performed by SML to include petroleum oil drilling by the oil production companies and the gold mining companies. This contract was eventually signed in October 2023. And it is instructive to know the keywords. It is the minister who determined, because the Minerals Commission and the Petroleum Commission, when we wrote to them, they said they knew nothing about them, these deals, because they were or are still regulators of these sectors. Then it is the minister who decided, Ken Ofori-Atta, that the scope should be expanded. The expansion had a clause that dealt with the payment, that every barrel of oil Ghana produced, SML should be entitled to $0.75. And when we did a calculation per the production quantities, this was translating to about $120,000 every single day with drilled oil. Then in the mining sector, we were told that contract said 0.75% of total production of gold. If you look at the billions of dollars that gold is giving us this year because of the gold prices and increment of the production and everything, SML would just have been making millions of dollars for works that we do not know, because the revenue has increased in the sector without SML's contract being implemented, and the company would have taken credit. So when we did our calculation, this company was to be entitled to over $100 million every single year. And if you take the first 5 years of the contract, we are talking of over $500 million. And now that gold prices are skyrocketing, our estimates then, I think, were even too conservative. So this is what the contract is about. Services that the company was performing, which were redundant because existing systems were already in place. And then Ken Ofori-Atta again wanted us to increase it. And when we asked SML whether in their revenue assurance operations, there had been a single situation when they caught a company, an oil marketing company, doing something that was illegal, they said no, not once did they ever flag a company. So the assumption and the issue that, well, we came to stop the leakages, it is false. GRA officials, customs officials are working very hard at every single depot. If they do not open the valve, you cannot load. There are already meters there calibrated by the Ghana Standards Authority, and these meters are more accurate than the meters of SML. So the question is, why pay over 1.4 billion cedis to a company whose services lack value for money? A company which the PPA denied single source approval on 3 separate occasions because it said SML did not have any experience or capacity to deliver. And we wrote to the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana. Their act says that to provide services of auditing and accountancy, you should be licensed by the institute. If you fail to obtain a license, you could be fined, jailed, or both. And we asked, does SML have the license to do these works? The letter they responded to us said no. So many violations of the law, many breaches of common sense, and it appeared people who were behind this deal did not act in the interest of the state. And finally, it is interesting to add that the former head of legal at the GRA now works for SML. The former technical advisor to the Commissioner General of the GRA, Christian Tetesoti, now works for SML. The former Commissioner of Customs, Isaac Krensel of the GRA, now works for SML. So even if the service was needed, the question we should be asking is, if you had the capacity to manage these revenue assurance services and you were at GRA, why did you outsource it to another company? And then when you left GRA, you went to that company to provide those same services to the GRA. So, Sandra, these are some of the sticking points of this that has been thankfully cancelled by President John Dramani Mahama, and I highly recommend him for commend him for such an action.
Your in-law has been laughing and smiling in the studio, asking why, because it sounds as if he's not agreeing with you. But to summarize in a simple sentence, is it the case that SML was created purposely to take our resources without working for it? Or the intention was good, but some way, somehow, things didn't go as planned? What's your reading of the SML contract?
I don't know why they were created, but I know they were created immediately after this, the MPP came into office. And I know when we asked them, and the company was formed in 2017. So we are in the 8th year now. And what we know is that this company doesn't have any other contract apart from GRA. It doesn't perform any other service to anybody. The only other time we found some workers of the SML trying to get to the airport was a certain company owned by the same SML man, Evans Eduse, got a revenue assurance contract at the airport. And this company is actually a mining company with only one employee, hadn't paid taxes for 2 or so years. Senate filing showed that it had only one employee, and we tried to realize that when it finally won the contract, SML people were going to. So I don't know exactly why they formed this company, but from the transactions I have seen, the works and the payment they have received, it is not something I would do in all good conscience.
So they don't have a track record of having worked anywhere. They have not, prior to the time they were given this contract, existed?
Not at all. This contract, the company was formed on Valentine's Day.
Oh, really?
Of 2017. And they started getting very sweetheart deals from the government.
So it was a beautiful gift to the country.
Let me say, only the GRA. The PPA on 3 separate occasions rejected single source approval for this company. And the reason was that they have no track record anywhere.
Okay.
And the Ken Oforiatta we know, who has built successful businesses, would not use his own resources or the resources of his companies to engage in these services.
Very well.
I don't believe so.
Okay. Manasseh, please stay with me. I'm going to engage my other guests and then I'll come. So Manasseh Azure, when he's speaking to us on Zoom, he's in the US now where he's studying, but he did his work as an investigative journalist with the Fourth Estate. Before I come to my guests to start here, let me introduce my other guests online. Alhaji Yunus Afuseni